you all for inviting us today. My name is Denise Robinson. I'm in the Division of Grants and Agreements, and my office is responsible for issuing the awards that are made that the program officers recommend. Today, I'm joined by my branch chief, Jason Madigan, and we also have our Director of Operations on the call. Her name is Pamela Hawkins. We're going to go over the proposal process. I'm going to discuss some of the processing issues that DGA has when we're processing proposals, the type of monitoring activities that take place once you receive an award, the keys to success, and like to save your questions to the end. As I said, DGA issues the award. I have a warrant to make the award. We also monitor the awards to make sure that grantees are compliant with our the terms and conditions, the special terms and conditions that might be in an award, the NSF policies and procedures, and any federal rules and regulations. Now, we're responsible for the administration from pre-award to closeout. And we just like to distinguish that DGA does not issue contracts. We issue assistance awards. They take the form of, we have a standard grant where you are given the money up front. Let's say you come in with a proposal for $300,000 for a 3-year award. You're given, the organization is given the money, or the money is given up front for the full amount. If you're given a continuing grant, that money is parceled out in increments. So you might get year one in the first increment, and then the other years you'll get the remaining increments. We also have cooperative agreements, and EEC has the Engineering Research Center. So those are cooperative agreements. Those are our large awards, and they have programmatic terms and conditions, as well as financial administrative terms and conditions that both parties, NSF and the organization, has to agree to. And when modifications are made to that agreement, we have to document those changes. And we also have fellowships that are made to graduate research students and postdocs. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the nsf.gov website, but if you're not, you go to that, you can click on funding, and you can get all types of links to information to search for funding. Like, for example, if you want to see something specific for HBCUs, you can click on that. You can look at recently announced funding opportunities. Most of our programs have, they allow unsolicited proposals. They don't have deadlines, so you can send in proposals to program officers at any time. But this is a good website to bookmark. We also have links to our policies and procedures, proposal and award policies and procedures guide that we refer to as the PAPG. You can also go to grants.gov, and you can get information on what funding opportunities there are. The formal funding opportunities are program solicitations and program announcements. They have specific requirements that you really need to pay attention to see if your organization is eligible to submit. They have budgetary requirements as well as technical requirements. So the Dear Colleague letters and the program descriptions are more informal, and they give general information, but they also provide funding opportunities. This is what a solicitation looks like. This is NSF Inclusive Alliances, but it'll show you the directorates that are funding it. It gives like deadlines if there are deadlines, and also it gives you eligibility requirements, who can serve, if there are restrictions on who can serve as the PI, as well as what types of organizations, if there's a limit on the number of proposals. And some solicitations are, I wouldn't say brief, but they could be, maybe 10 pages, and then you have others that could be up to 40 pages. The solicitation for the research centers is quite lengthy. So just like to make that point. As I said, some programs, they don't have any types of deadlines. Proposals can be submitted at any time, but for the announcements and the solicitations, you typically would have deadlines, or a target date. Or a submission window. One of the most popular solicitations is for career. And so I worked on the career coordinating committee, and the deadline was July 27th. And it's unfortunate when PIs have worked so hard to get proposals in, and they miss that 5 o'clock window at submitters time. And we, as part of the career coordinating committee, we get requests for making exceptions, and it's just really hard. But the people that missed out will have to wait till the following solicitation next year. These are the types of proposals that NSF issues, and most of them are research awards, but we also have awards for equipment, specialized equipment, travel, conferences, the research centers, and I want to particularly speak about the rapid and eager proposals. Now, all of you are aware we're in the COVID situation, and earlier this year under the CARES Act, NSF received, I think it was like 75 million altogether. And so DGA, once those rapids start coming in the program, a program got them to us, we were trying to get those out the door as soon as possible. And a rapid is issued when there's an urgent situation, or you want to have access to the data, the facilities, or the equipment, or it could be a natural disaster or something that's unanticipated, an event that happens. One that I included was the Detroit water emergency. We made rapids because they wanted to collect the data from everything that was going on in Detroit at that time. There's no kind of external review on the rapids. They are internal review only, and they can be for up to $200,000 for 1 year. And we also have eagers, and eagers are to support exploratory work in its early stages on untested but potentially transformative research ideas or approaches. We had more COVID rapids than we had COVID eagers, but we did have quite a few of those. And there is also no external merit review required on those, and they can be up to $300,000 for 2 years. To submit a proposal, all of you, I'm sure, are familiar with FastLane and research.gov. FastLane's been around for 26 years, so NSF is in the process of moving everything that's on FastLane to research.gov, because to maintain FastLane and research.gov, it's quite costly. But research.gov, you can submit proposals, you can submit project reports, the cash drawdowns come through research.gov, and then also grants, proposals are submitted through grants.gov. The PAPG is what we consider, as a specialist, is what we consider our Bible. It's used by, of course, NSF personnel, but it's also used by the grant community. So if you're interested in submitting a proposal, you need to become very familiar with the PAPG. It spells out, there are 2 parts. The first part describes all the things you need to know about submitting a proposal, and it tells you, talks about the merit review process, reasons that your proposal might be returned without review, your proposal could be declined, and it includes also in part 2, the policies for managing the award and the way NSF monitors the award, and talks about technical reports. It's a lot of good information. So it's definitely, if you're submitting proposals, you need to review part 1 of the PAPG. The parts of the proposal include all of these items that are listed, and we're going to talk in a little more in detail, but if you come in through FastLane or research.gov, these parts are worked on in the order that they are given. Some might not be applicable, there's no postdoc on it, but most of these are required. If you submit the proposal through grants.gov, the order that they are completed might be different, but the content is the same. This is what a cover sheet looks like, and most of the information on the cover sheet is electronically pre-filled. On this particular one, it was for a specific solicitation, so you see the solicitation number on there. The project summary will give an overview of the project. You also need to address broader impacts and intellectual merit. The project description can be up to 15 pages, and that's the meat of the proposal. It's all the why, how you plan to do it, what the broader impacts are. It gives all that good information. We see a lot of graphs, diagrams. It discusses who's working on the project, all the PIs, co-PIs, senior personnel. So it's a lot of information. The budget is what my office in particular, we look at the requirements for the solicitation for sure, but we very carefully check the budget. When we see salary that exceeds NSF has a general policy that salary should be no more than 2 months. So when we see 6 months or 12 months or something like that, we want to see what's the justification for that. There could be a valid reason, but we need to see the justification. We look closely at participant support. On line G6, there's other costs. It's typically things like tuition, user fees, but we want to see an itemization. Your budget, the justification can be up to 5 pages. If you have a sub-award, for another organization, there needs to be a budget and a justification for each sub-award, I should say. The PAPG has all of that information. The thing you want to look at, and the thing that we're looking at, we want to make sure the amounts are realistic and reasonable. Is it well justified? Someone coming behind me, I don't want them to question, hey, why did Denise approve this? Did she get further clarification? If you don't understand something, that's my job, to get clarification and make sure our policies and procedures are being followed. And as I said, these are some of the cost, different budget line items. We don't allow cost share on the vast majority of the proposals that are submitted. The engineering research centers, those are one of the exceptions. Cost sharing is allowed for the organization to include on the budget, but for most of the solicited and unsolicited proposals, line M will be grayed out. Now, an organization can have voluntary uncommitted cost sharing, but that cost sharing can't be on the budget. They can contribute to the NSF projects, but it cannot be allowed on the budget unless it's explicitly authorized. Like I said, the engineering research centers is one example. All of the PIs, co-PIs, and senior personnel have to provide their current and pending support. And as of October 5th, there is the NSF approved format has to be used for current and pending. In the past, you would see all kinds of formats, and the information was there, but was just organized not in an approved format for everyone. So that is a change that has come about, and policy has been working with the grant community on. There are supplementary documents which include all proposals have to have a data management plan. Some proposals, like the career, for example, they have letters of collaboration. And then, as I mentioned, if you have a postdoc, the postdoc plan is required. The letters for collaboration, they should include the single statement. I'm not going to read it, but the person can't recommend or endorse the PI for the project, but they state that they're going to collaborate on the project. Data management plans are required, and the plan should describe how the proposal will conform to NSF policy on dissemination and sharing research results. And the plan will be reviewed as part of the intellectual merit and broader impacts of the proposal. I included this graph because I like to show that the proposals come in and the program office can take up to 6 months to conduct all the reviews and to analyze what the panel or the reviewers, their recommendations, and then to finally decide what they want to fund, and the division direct forward for the DD's concurrence. And then they come to DGA for processing, and DGA typically will process proposals within 30 days. Now, the exception to that is for larger awards. For example, the research centers, those awards are over $20 million. So of course, additional review has to take place. And then also for new awardees, the process is quite a bit longer. The reminders, if you're working on a particular program announcement or solicitation, read it carefully. Whatever the funding opportunity is, the Dear Colleague letters, make sure you understand what the criteria are and avoid omissions and mistakes, and make sure your proposal is complete. You don't want it to be returned because one item was missing. In fiscal year 19, DGA processed over 21,000 actions. Now, this includes new proposals, renewals, supplements, increments, and then we have what we call no fund actions, where it's like a no cost extension, change in PI, change in your scope or objectives. But the vast majority, you can see the percentages, is 78% was new awards and supplemental funding or increments. So we stay pretty busy, especially this year with all the COVID money. These are the primary reasons that your proposal would be delayed. There's some kind of requirement that was in the solicitation that is missing. If you have research that includes human subjects or vertebrate animals, we don't have the proper approvals. There are unjustified or unallowed costs listed in the budget. A big one is overdue reports. and also if your organization is a new awardee. We've already discussed how the solicitation has certain requirements, but I want to point out that if you do have vertebrate animals, you have to have the IACUC approval before the award is made. For human subjects, it's a little different. The IRB will typically say it's approved or it's exempt, or it lacks the definite plans. And so, they will say that it lacks definite plans. We can issue the award, but there can't be any research conducted with human subjects until that full IRB approval has been obtained. So this does sometimes hold up our projects. The justification, you want to make sure you justify all your costs. Some of the unallowed items that we see typically include like entertainment. I never see alcohol, but I did include that. But prizes, we see prizes, and typically prizes would not be allowed. Participant support is also an area where we typically have that come up on a lot of our proposals. And we just ask that you review the PAPG and make sure that you understand what participant support is. It normally covers stipends, travels, subsistence for participants, not employees. And then on G6, the other costs, we like to see an itemization. It's okay if it's just tuition, state what it is in the justification. But if there are multiple things like user fees, human subject payments, if other things are included in G6, we need to see a breakdown so we can determine, oh, this amount is reasonable, appears necessary. And then for indirect costs, make sure that you are using the appropriate rate for the most recent negotiated indirect cost rate agreement. Sometimes with PI transfers, we see the rate for the prior institution. And no, if you're moving to a new organization or institution, you need to use that organization's indirect cost rate. Annual project reports in the fourth quarter, oh my goodness. When we see those overdue reports, you'll have everything done, the project is you're ready to issue the award, but you can't because the co-PI has 2 overdue reports. So make sure those reports get in for your sub. You get plenty of notices. The system emails, I think it's like every 2 weeks when a report is due, and then when it goes overdue, it might email more frequently. But I know things happen, especially with COVID. Life has just been turned upside down. So we are patient, but our job is to try to get those awards out, especially in the fourth quarter. So make sure you get the reports submitted, and they have to be reviewed by the cognizant program officer. And I'd like to make a point with the final report, make sure that the research has been completed. You don't anticipate a no-cost extension or transfer of the grant. Sometimes we get requests for the reopening of an award once it's been financially closed and the final project report and the project outcomes report has been submitted. And it's just a lot more work. So before you submit those, make sure that you're certain that the project is over. And for the project outcomes report, there's no approval by the program officer. That is posted exactly as it's submitted, and it's for the public. For new awardees, if your organization hasn't had an NSF award ever, or if they have not had an award within the past 5 years, then it's considered a new awardee, and an additional review has to be conducted. We send you a new awardee package, and you have to provide certain documentation that includes financial statements or tax returns. And also we want to look at your policies. What's your written policies for personnel, time and effort, for participant support, for monitoring subawards. So when DGA conducts the review for new awardees, well, DGA or DIAS. DGA conducts it when it's under $500,000, the amount of funding. DIAS, which is the Division of Institutional and Award Support, they conduct the reviews for ones that are over, the funding is over $500,000, the cumulative funding. But we are both looking at the financial viability of the organization. We want to make sure, this organization has resources and they will not be using the award to take care of operating expenses. And then we also, based on uniform guidance, we want to make sure that you can manage the award and you have an adequate accounting system for some of our small businesses, some of them in the past have felt like an Excel spreadsheet was an accounting system. Well, it's not. And some of them have been declined. They have great technical programmatic ideas, but they were weak on the financial management written policies in the accounting system. So we hate that all that work has gone through and then we have to issue a decline once it's been recommended by a program, but that is part of our job. We want to make sure those funds can be adequately managed. So these are the types of monitoring activities that take place. Program conducts site visits. DIAS has desk reviews that are done by a contractor. DGA, the specialists go out with the cost analyst, and it's approximately 30 site visits per fiscal year. This year, they will all be virtual. Well, we expect that they could all be virtual. The Division of Financial Management monitors the payment activity. They don't want to see a 3-year award where all the funds have been drawn down in the first month. That sends an alert. And then, of course, the IG conducts audits. Some of the keys to success: read your award notice. Make sure you understand what's in there. There could be special terms and conditions. Whatever we're asking of you, it will be documented. All the applicable terms and conditions will be in the award notice. Make sure the award has an active PI. You want to manage those funds, be prudent. We want to make sure the costs are reasonable, necessary, allocable, allowable. Make sure you're up to date on your reporting requirements. You don't want to have overdue reports because it stops everything for not just you, but if you're a co-PI on another project. And you want to make sure you have those written policies and procedures, adequate internal controls and oversight. Train staff to understand their roles and responsibilities. And really take this point, maintain the lines of communication, whether it's with your grant official or the cognizant program officer. If you have a question, it's not a silly ask it. It's not a silly question. I'd rather you ask me. It could be something that it takes me like 5 seconds to think about and respond. But I'd rather you ask than you come back later and it becomes an issue. So contact your program officer, reach out to your SRO. If it's an administrative question, ask your DGA, the grant specialist, and also policy, NSF policy. They are available for general questions. They don't want award specific questions, but if you have a general question, they are more than welcome for you to reach out to them. If you have questions on payments, on ACS is the Award Cash Management Service, and research.gov, that's the link for DFM. And if you have problems with FastLane or ArcGov, I provided the phone numbers for the help desk. And then I also have the link for policy as well as for DGA. And we're going to open it up for questions. So let me stop sharing. All right, and open it up for questions. And you can speak or do the chat. Oh, let's see. All right, and Jason and Pam, if y'all want to jump in, let me know. I see one, it says, for new applicants, what is required of financial management systems to be considered credible? I really don't want to go into all of the details, but like I said, you need to have a lot of our grantees have off-the-shelf Oracle systems, but I'm not saying that's the only thing you could have. But you need to have a financial management system. Like I said, it can't be Excel. And you need to have written policies and procedures. Hi, Jason. So feel free to weigh in. Let's see, what else? Did you want to say anything, Jason? Okay, all right. I'm just trying to go back and see. All right, did I miss anything? Okay, let's see. I think I see one more. For ERC or other proposals that require at least one minority serving institution, does having co-PIs from more than one MSI help to have a more successful proposal? I think I will save that one for Ed. I cannot answer that. Ed, did you want to weigh in?
Well, I'm responding in the chat now.
Okay, all right.
I'm typing some things now.
Okay, all right. Oh, okay, all right.
So I
And
can
then-
chime in.
Oh,
This
hi,
is
Don.
Don Millard. Hi. So with respect to the one or more MSIs, so unfortunately, even with our new budget for the Gen 4 of in the full year of 6 million, it's still a limited budget. So too many teams without proper justification for the research of the involvement of that team may be problematic in terms of spreading the funds too thin. So it really needs to be a strategy that's employed from the standpoint of, do you have the research that's necessary to be able to research personnel and infrastructure at the multiple MSIs that will really be able to allow the engineering system to take place at the end of the 10 years of the funding that goes on. And so this is not a yes or no question. This is really more one of, what is the research objectives that you have? What are the other three components objectives that you have? And does it make sense to be able to bring on these multiple institutions to be able to do that? We look at a combination of all of these factors, including the strength of the personnel that are putting in the proposals, whether or not they really make sense as a team and that they've worked together in a team and they're capable of being able to perform the activity in such a way that they really will be able to move the needle in terms of engineering in all four of the components in the engineering Gen 4 ERC solicitation. Hopefully that's helpful.
Thank you, Don. I see one other question. It says, the presenter said that salary cannot be more than 2 months. Is that applicable to postdocs? I'm not saying salary can't be more than 2 months for the PI, co-PI, senior personnel. Now for postdocs, of course, we see 6 months, 12 months. So the general policy is only applicable to the senior personnel like the PI and the co-PIs. All right, and I think that's it as far as items in the chat room. Thank you.